Hey guys, it's Chris here from Pharmacare Regenerative Health and Fitness, and I'm here to show you how you can get in shape at home. Maybe you don't have a gym close to you, maybe the membership fees are just a little too much, or maybe you're not comfortable working out in front of so many people and you think you might either look foolish or do something foolish. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can get in amazing shape, build muscle, build strength, and improve your physique at home with a simple pair of dumbbells and a bench. So if you want to find out how to do it, stick around, I'm going to show you how. Today we're going to cover an upper body workout focusing on the muscles of the shoulders, the chest, the upper back, the biceps, and the triceps. I'm going to take you through every exercise in this program to make sure you know how to perform the technique safely and effectively. After that, we're going to review the entire routine so you understand how to follow the routine properly, and then also how to select the right weights for each exercise and make progress over time as you continue to do the workout. So let's get into it. Okay guys, the first exercise in our routine is called the low incline dumbbell bench press. So we'll need our dumbbells and incline bench adjusted to roughly 30 degrees or its lowest position. If you don't have the incline, you can do this on a flat bench. The technique is virtually identical. This exercise is going to cover the muscles of our chest, so our pec muscle, our anterior deltoid or the front of our shoulder, and our triceps, which make up all the major pushing muscles, and it's what we call a compound movement. So there's multiple joints working, multiple muscles working, which means we get a lot of efficiency out of just this one exercise for our upper body pushing muscles. To perform the movement, we're going to hold the dumbbells on your thighs. We're going to roll back onto the bench. We're going to pull the weights towards your shoulder until you make contact. We always want to emphasize a full range of motion through the movement. And it's much better to start with a lighter weight and concentrate on a full range of motion so we can develop strength and stability through the entire range of the shoulder joint and progress slowly, rather than use really heavy weights that we can't work through a full range of motion, because all we'll do is continue to increase strength through a partial range of motion and the joint will be weak and tight in its deep range. Further, much research has shown that when a muscle is put into a deep stretch, it has to activate hard to get out. And groups that train with full range of motion build more muscle compared to groups who train with partial range of motion. So once again, I'm always going to recommend we start with a lighter weight and work for full range before adding more load. So let's see it in action. We're going to roll back, bring the weights all the way to the shoulder, press your upper back into the bench. So I'm actually going to push my feet into the floor almost as if I'm kicking into the floor to press my upper back into the bench. And then we press the weights. Now our tempo is 4, 3, 2, 1 down, a 1 second pause in the stretched position, a 1 second press, no pause at the top, and back down again. So you can see we're squeezing until the weights touch our shoulder. We're going to press up hard and then slow motion, controlled eccentric movement on the way down. We'll just do a couple more for demonstration. And then to get out of the movement on our last rep, we bring the weights down to our shoulders, we lift our knees, bring the weights to your thighs, and we can roll up to spare the lower back and return the weights to the shelf. So that's the low incline dumbbell press. Give it a try. Let me know how it feels in the comments and whatever other feedback you might have about the exercise. Okay guys, our next exercise is called the one arm dumbbell row. So once again, we're going to be using your bench and a weight. This exercise is going to target all the major pulling muscles. So our last exercise, the bench press, was targeting our chest, the front of our shoulder, and our triceps. This one's going to cover our upper back muscles, like our lats and our rhomboids, our posterior deltoid, the back of our shoulder, and the biceps muscles. So the nice thing about pairing these together, it's what we call an antagonist superset. So the chest muscles that are focused on during the bench press are going to get a break during the rowing movement, and we're going to target all the opposite muscle groups during the rowing movement. So we can keep the rest period short and keep the work rate high, which is going to help us get in better shape a little faster. As far as performance, this is basically like starting your lawnmower. What we're going to do is put one knee on the bench. The same hand is going to go on the bench, 1 foot on the floor for stability, and then we're going to hold the weight in the opposite hand. We're going to try to get a full stretch at the bottom. So we're keeping the chest puffed up in a neutral position, but we're letting the shoulder blade relax and get a nice deep stretch. And then we're going to pull the weight up towards our hip slow and steady on the way down. So once again, full stretch at the bottom, just like our bench press, big fast pull up to your hip, and then slow and steady on the way down. You'll notice I'm not rotating through my back as I'm lifting up and down on the weight. My spine is staying relatively still. It's my shoulder blade and my upper arm that are doing most of the work here. Okay guys, the next exercise in our program is called the dumbbell skull crusher. Don't worry, we're not actually going to bring the weights directly over your face. This is an exercise that's going to target the triceps muscle on the back of the arm, and we're going to pair this with a biceps muscle. So what we're going to do is lie flat on the bench and press the weights up to an arm length, just like we're doing a bench press, and then we're going to bend at the elbow only and bring the weights to either side of the head before returning to the start position. So lying back on the bench, weights up straight. We're going to keep the elbows pointed towards the ceilings at all times, bringing the weights to either side of the head to get a full stretch around the elbow joint, and then press up. So it's a nice slow eccentric, like always. Control all the way down, press up, and then return. You'll notice I'm not letting my arms, my elbows move forwards and backwards as I'm coming up and down. The upper arm should be staying relatively still, and I'm just bending at the elbow, getting in a deep position, and coming back up. Weights to the knees, and we roll up to spare the lower back. Okay guys, the fourth exercise in our program is a seated supinating biceps curl. We're choosing to do a seated version here because it's going to restrict swinging and momentum through the hips. That can occur often when we're standing. And we're choosing a supinating version because in addition to being a flexor of the elbow, the biceps are also a supinator. They perform this twisting action. And so we can maximize their involvement in this movement by turning the pinkies up as we lift your weights. So this is a very simple exercise to perform. We're going to make sure your back is resting and your head is resting against the bench. Once again, so we're not swinging. We're going to start with the fists pointed towards the floor. And then as we curl the weights up, we're just going to turn our palm up towards the ceiling, come down nice and slowly, letting our hands untwist as we get to the bottom, and then repeating. Each time we come down, we want to make sure we come all the way down until our elbow is straight, and we're going to focus on keeping the elbow pointed at the floor at the top. In other words, we're going to avoid a swinging motion as we lift the weights up because we're trying to keep tension on the biceps muscle, and keeping the upper arm fixed is going to help us achieve that. So give that a try. Let us know if you're able to feel your biceps muscles, what kind of weights you're able to handle. Share it with us in the comments. Next, we're moving on to the lateral deltoid muscles, which are basically the sides of the shoulders. And we're going to do what's called the lateral raise. So we just need to take a pair of dumbbells at our side, and it's basically reaching out to a T shape. We want to keep a very small bend in our elbow. It's going to be most comfortable for most people compared to keeping totally straight at the elbow. And we're just going to raise the weights up to either side, trying to get the hands just above the height of the shoulders, and then coming down very slowly. The key to this exercise is to really milk the eccentric and control the movement on the way down. If we get into this kind of swinging motion, we're just leaving a lot of potential on the table. So once again, for safety, for control, for efficacy, we want to squeeze the weights up, control the weights down, and you'll begin feeling a big burn. If you want to add more intensity or more effectiveness to this exercise, don't bring the weights all the way down because this is essentially a rest position at the bottom. So again, we're going to get the weights up. We're going to control the eccentric. We're going to stop just before the tension releases and return back up. And you're going to feel a big burn in the shoulders. We're going for high reps on this exercise because this is a smaller muscle group and predominantly slow twitch muscle fibers. You're going to get more benefit by working through that burn and going for high reps. They're also going to recover very quickly. And so we want to put a bit more volume through the shoulder muscles. The next exercise in our routine is a dumbbell pullover. This is really nice, and it's important to think of this exercise as actually a stretch strengthening exercise. So we're taking the shoulder into full shoulder flexion, and then we're going to be pulling ourselves out. It's going to be a great strengthener for the lats, but more importantly, it's going to allow us, as we develop strength and flexibility, it's going to allow us to get into overhead pressing motions more comfortably and have appropriate overhead lifting mechanics. So we're going to take our weight, we're going to lie down on the bench. We can have the feet on the floor or on the bench, whatever is more comfortable depending on your height. You're going to grip the head of the dumbbell, so one end of your dumbbell. We're going to set the abdominals, and so this is important. We want to maintain our natural lordotic curve on the bench. So you're going to think of arching your back ever so slightly, and then when you exhale, we want to pull the ribs down so you feel your abdominals engage. Holding that position with the abs, we're going to reach back behind the head until we get a full stretch, and then return up. Exhale, set the abdominals, and then we're going to reach back over the head with the weight until we get a full deep stretch, and then return the weight overhead. We want to watch that we don't allow the rib cage to lift up, because then we end up kind of cheating the range of motion. By setting the abdominal muscles, we hold our rib cage still, and it allows us to get a good stretch through the shoulder and then return back up. This one, it's a really good idea to start with a light to moderate rate for your first few sessions and make sure you're comfortable with the position. And then as you develop strength over time and good technique, we can start increasing the load on the weights. Our next exercise is a seated external rotation for the shoulder with the dumbbell. And this is an exercise that's going to particularly focus on the external rotator muscles, or what we call the rotator cuff. And we're including this exercise because so many people have bunged up rotator cuff muscles and general weakness. The rotator cuff is a deaccelerator of the upper arm. So when we throw a ball, these muscles are what are going to keep you safe and control the eccentric motion. And as I said, most people have embarrassingly weak rotator cuff muscles compared to, say, the muscles used in things like the bench press or their bicep curls. So the way we go about this exercise is by placing one foot on the floor, the other foot goes on the bench. The elbow is going to sit right in the little nook next to your kneecap. The unused hand will be placed on the bench, and we want to get in a nice tall posture. So we're thinking top of the head to the ceiling, chest puffed up, and we're going to lower the weight down towards the floor and then lift back up, slowly rotating. And you'll notice my shoulder is staying pretty still. So it's just the upper arm bone that's rotating down. We want to avoid letting the shoulder blade come for the ride, which is really common, especially in people who have tight rotator cuff muscles. We see the whole upper back come for the ride. We want to, again, keep tall posture, chest up, and only rotating the upper arm, keeping the shoulder blade locked back and retracted. Guys, the final exercise in our routine is called the bent over face pull. So this is an exercise, of course, we can do with dumbbells. It's going to target the muscles of the upper back. So specifically the posterior deltoid, the rhomboids, and the mid traps are going to get a good workout from this. It's going to require that we bend forward slightly at the waist. We're going to hold the weights in front of us, and then we're going to bring the weights up towards our forehead with the elbows out at the sides and lower down slowly, just from here to here. Just like our lateral raise, we want to focus on controlling the eccentric and lowering the weights down slowly, and avoid a swinging kind of a motion as we do this exercise. So it's always better to start with a weight that's very manageable for you, that you can control, and then slowly progress over time. So from a side view, we just have a light incline forward, maybe 10 or 15 degrees. The weights are hanging in front of us, and then we're bringing our fists to either side of our head with the elbows out wide, and then controlling the weights on the way down. And once again, you'll feel a really good burn occur in the back of the shoulders, the trap muscles, and the middle of the back. Now that you understand how to perform each exercise in the routine, I want to take a little time to talk about how to read your routine. So the first thing you're going to notice, beside every single exercise in the routine, there's a letter and a number. So A1 next to your bench press, and then A2 next to your one-arm dumbbell row. This is the sequence in which the exercises are meant to be performed. So if you do one set of bench presses, the A2 indicates that you're then going to go to do one set of the one-arm dumbbell row. And then you're going to repeat back and forth between those two exercises until you've completed all of your sets. And then you'll move on to the B series. So in this case, we've got a B1 exercise and a B2 exercise. So we would alternate between those two exercises until you complete all the required sets, and then we'll move on to the C exercises. The exercise name itself, of course, should be self-explanatory. So let's talk about sets and reps. Every time we lower the weight all the way down and then press the weight back up, that's considered one repetition, a full cycle of the muscles stretching out all the way and then contracting or shortening all the way. If you've got a goal to do 10 repetitions, that means once you complete 10 times up and down, you've completed one set. And then as you can see here in our program today, our first pair of exercises, we're trying to complete 3 sets. So once again, with our exercise sequence, it means you're going to do 10 repetitions of the incline press, then you're going to do 10 repetitions of the one-arm dumbbell row, and then you're going to go back for your second set of press, second set of row, third set of bench press, third set of row, and then you'll move on to the next series. And so we're always trying to hit the top number of repetitions. As you can see for our bench press, we're aiming at a target of 8 to 10 reps. And we're going to touch on this more as we get into how to select the appropriate weights and make progress. But just know for now, you want to aim for the top number, or in this case, 3 sets of 10. After that, the most probably confusing part of this is going to be the tempo. So the first thing to understand is that there is a concentric contraction when we lift a weight, or a shortening or lifting of the muscle. And then there's an eccentric contraction, which means the muscle is under tension while it's lengthening or lowering a weight. And this is very important because when we're lifting weights, and specifically if we're trying to build muscle, research has shown that programs that emphasize the eccentric contraction build more muscles than if we perform the same exercises, but we do a fast eccentric. So again, what this means is when we lift weights, we are performing a concentric contraction. When we lower weights, our muscle is under an eccentric contraction. And when we emphasize the eccentric, or we lower weights down slowly, we have the opportunity to build more muscle. In addition, this also means that we're going to perform the movement safely because we're not going to be swinging or heaving the weights. So from both a safety perspective and an efficacy perspective, I highly recommend focusing on slow eccentrics. So when we go back to our tempo here, the first number is our eccentric component, or our lowering phase of the lift. So in this case, I'm suggesting you take 4 seconds to lower the weight down. So in the case of our incline bench press, when we lower the weight, we're going to count 4, 3, 2, 1. The second number indicates a pause. So in this case, we want to pause for 1 second. Then we're going to press the weight up for 1 second. And then there's no pause at the top. So we have a lowering component for 4 seconds. We have a 1 second pause. We have a 1 second lift. And then we have a 0 second or no pause at the top of the movement. And so this is our formula for each one of these movements. The only thing we want to consider here is whether or not our exercise starts with the lowering, because in some cases, like the deadlift, for instance, we actually start with a lifting phase first. So it's a little confusing, but you'll pick it up very quickly if you can just remember when you're lowering the weight, that's the eccentric, and that's the first number in our tempo. Now, moving on to the schedule, it's always important to remain consistency. So this is an upper body workout. It's meant to be paired with a lower body workout, which we're going to cover in another upcoming video. But for now, just sticking with the upper body, we want to perform this routine twice a week. And then ideally, you're going to have a lower body workout, which you would also perform twice a week on a different day. So we could look at doing our upper body workout on, say, Monday and Thursday, and then a lower body workout that we perform on, say, Tuesday and Friday. And the idea here is you're typically going to experience some muscle soreness for something like 48 to 72 hours following your workout. And essentially, when we work out, what we're trying to do is actually create some muscular damage, which is going to lead to that muscle soreness. And then we want to recover from that soreness before we repeat the same workout again. So by working out on Monday, we're probably going to be sore Tuesday. We might have some soreness left Wednesday. And hopefully by Thursday, when it's time to work out, our chest, our upper body muscles are all feeling fresh and ready for another performance. And hopefully we can push them just a little bit harder than we did the time before. So getting in 2 workouts a week is probably the sweet spot for most people. As you progress, you may, and depending on how hard you push during your workouts, you may be able to get a 3rd workout for a target muscle group you really want to specialize in. You may even require a little more rest if you're really going hard, especially if you're doing particularly fatiguing exercises with really heavy loads. But for now, 2 times a week is going to be the sweet spot. So let's try to stick to that. Now, in terms of selecting the correct weights, we want to understand a concept called reps in reserve and momentary muscular failure. So when we lift, if we achieve momentary muscular failure, it means you did every single possible repetition you could until your muscle literally gave out underneath you. And this is going to be very rare, especially for people who are new to weightlifting, because our mind is usually going to give up before our muscles do. But there is quite a bit of research that talks about a concept called reps in reserve. And historically, most coaches know that we don't want to go all out on every single set of every single workout, because the fatigue we accumulate is going to burn us out essentially. You're not going to be able to maintain that level of effort over the long term. And fitness and being healthy are all about the long game. You want to be coming to the gym every single week of every single month of every single year for the rest of your life if you want to maintain benefits. So it's really about punching the clock. And what that means is that for the most part, probably 70% of all the sets we perform, we want to be leaving 2 or maybe even 3 reps in the tank, meaning you should finish your set and still feel like if there was a gun to your head, you probably could have squeezed out 2 more if you needed to. And then something like maybe 15 or 20% of our workouts, or something like every 4th time we go to the gym to do the same workout, that's when we want to push and try to hit a new personal record or go as close as we can to failure and really go for it. But if we do that every single time, you're going to burn out and you're going to give up on your fitness goals. So once again, most of the time, we're trying to leave 2 reps in the tank. So now that we understand that, when it's your first workout, what I want you to do is pick a weight that feels pretty light to you and perform a warm-up set. If it's really light, try going a little heavier and doing a second warm-up set, and then choose the weight that you feel like you're going to be able to complete all your sets and reps for and still feel like you could have done more if you needed to. You might overshoot it on your first workout, but I'd really suggest trying to go a little under, because we can always add more weight in the second workout. We can always add more weight in the third workout. And the important thing is to build a solid foundation of technique. So we don't want to be maxing out in your first couple workouts. Once again, we want to leave a little bit in the tank, build a good foundation with our form. And then as we progress, we can start pushing a little harder, and a little harder. Now, when it comes to making progress over time, at first, you're probably going to be able to make linear progress. And what this means is that every single workout, you're probably going to be able to lift a slightly heavier weight, or you're going to be able to do a couple more reps in the set. And that's wonderful and it's great. Eventually, it's going to run out, and then we're going to need to make stepwise progress, which means we're going to need to creep up to your max, and then we're going to need to back off and then build back up again. And this is very typical in weightlifting. Like I said earlier, we can't continually make progress. We can't redline it all the time. We want to leave 2 reps in the tank on most of our sets most of the time and then push. So this stepwise progression is an example of how to schedule that. And so the way this is going to look in reality, let's use our bench press as an example. Let's say you started with 20-pound dumbbells and you were able to do 3 sets of 10 with 20 pounds. Then you get up to 25 pounds and you can do 3 sets of 10. And then in the next workout, you get up to 30 pounds and you find you can't get all 3 sets of 10. Maybe it goes 10 reps on set 1 and then 8 reps, and then you could only squeeze out 7 reps on the 3rd set. The next time you show up to the gym, I want you to keep the 30 pounds and I want you to aim for the lower rep target. So you're going to go 3 sets of 8 with 30 pounds. If you complete that successfully, the following workout, you're going to try 3 sets of 9 with 30 pounds. And then the next workout, when you come back, you should probably be able to successfully achieve the full 3 sets of 10 with that 30 pounds, which means in the following workout after that, you might want to go up to 35 pounds, but then we're going to drop back down looking for 8 reps. And that's how we just do a stepwise progression. It's one of the simplest ways to make progress as you start beginning to stall against your upper limit and maintain that rule of keeping a couple reps in the tank most of the time. Now, if you aren't able to complete the 3 sets of 10, even once you backed off, you're just going to repeat that cycle again. Remember, we're in this for the long game. Strength is built over time by accumulating a large number of sets and reps with good form and good technique and showing up every time. If you max yourself up every time, you're going to find you start feeling joint pain. You're going to find you feel excessive fatigue outside of the gym, and you're going to find your motivation to show up to the gym is going to decline to the point where you might just give up altogether. It's much better to be successful and set smaller goals and targets for yourself rather than trying to set a new record every time you show up to the gym. Okay, so with that, you have everything you need to start working out at home with the upper body. Come back and join us again. We're going to take a look at a lower body complement to this program, so you'll be able to have a good upper body routine at home and a good lower body routine. Once you try the routine, please hit me in the comments with any questions you have about the routine or any feedback about your progress. I'd love to hear from you. That's all for this time. Next time, check back in with us and we're going to cover our lower body routine. Thanks, everybody.